Good morning. This is Kevin, and I'm with Benchmark ITS. We'll be going over reporting today. Um, in this session, we have about an hour to do that. I do want to encourage you to please turn off your cameras and microphones. It helps when we have a large number of people in the system. It helps to no background noise, that type thing. It also helps the presentation to work better. So if you could please turn off your microphones and cameras. I don't think anybody has them on, so we will proceed from here. Um, we're going to talk about reporting in ADVANSYS today. ADVANSYS is the adult education management system that Benchmark ITS has deployed. I am the owner of Benchmark ITS. We started this company roughly about 20 years ago doing adult education management, and we have expanded it to a number of other fields. But adult education management is our primary focus. What you're looking at now is our demonstration mode. This is a demonstration system that you have access to for the entirety of your participation with our programs. You can always go here to test scenarios, to look at data, to practice, to do training. You know, this is your place to play and to work and to get acclimated to the system, as opposed to working in the live system. So anything that you put into this system, any reports that come out of the system, this is all just for demonstration purposes. It will be marked as demo mode at the top. You'll always see that. So the first thing I'm going to do is log in. I would assume that most of you have login capabilities. So I'm going to log in here. The first page that I come to is the dashboard. For this presentation, since we'll be talking about reporting, I'm going to show you where to find basic information that will go over a lot of the same topics that we'll discuss today, so that you can download that information and review it for yourself. If you go to support on the left-hand side, which is here, and you open that up by clicking the little down arrow to the side, and you choose downloads. Underneath in the bottom section where it says other downloads, if you type the word reports or a report, you will find two documents. One says, how do I generate federal reports, and how do I generate reports? Downloading those documents, I'll show those to you now. This is what the generating reports document looks like, and it shows you how to go into the system and generate basic reports that are in the system. This is our supplemental reports, and it shows you just some information on how to set the filtering criteria and how to view the reports when they're generated. We also have how do I generate federal reports, which is a little different because we have scheduling that's available there, but it also tells you more information about setting the reports, the parameters, the reporting queue, and how to view the reports and what the format will look like when we get to those. So those documents are available for your review. They're in the download section. And before we started the presentation, I wanted to give you the option to go and download those yourself if you chose to, either now or at some later point. I'm going to go back to the system itself. ADVANSYS actually is generated in, is divided into multiple sections. If you look on the far left-hand side where the navigation menu is, you'll see student management, class management, program management, user management, and then reports. The kind of neat thing about ADVANSYS is that we have reports that are built into each of these different tabs. For instance, if you open student management, you can see attendance alerts, which is actually a report that's generated in the system. You can see the NRS separation report, which is a report that's generated in the system. You can also see testing alerts, which is a report that's generated in the system. So is enrollment alerts, that's another report. So I'm gonna choose one of these now just to give you an idea of how these work. I'm gonna try NRS separation report. It takes the NRS separation report a little bit of time to generate because it is compiling a great deal of information. The NRS separation report is designed to pull a list of students who have not had activity on their record in the past 90 days and give you options on separating those students or marking them as preparing for mark them as planned with a planned return date. Give it just a second. I would assume at this point several of you are also clicking on the same report. And when, even though the system is set up for, I believe, 250 or 500 concurrent users, concurrent typically means you're not all clicking on the same thing at exactly the same time, and we may be doing that at this point. I'm just going to go to another report while that's actually generating. Also, under student management, we have attendance alerts, testing alerts, enrollment alerts, outcome alerts. Those are all reports that generate in the system. Under class management, we have review hours, which is typically a report. We have low enrollment alerts, which is a report. We have full enrollment alerts, which is a report. We have class ending alerts, which is a report. We also have the dashboard, which is another series of reports. I'm in as the program manager for a sample program that we created in the system. It's called Tecumseh Adult Ed. And when the dashboard itself, I can actually see information that can be exported into a report. So when I'm looking at the dashboard, I've got actively enrolled students. I've got active NRS students. I've got active ABE, active ESL, students who are IET. You'll see a lot more students in your file than I would see here typically. So from this page, I can actually click on any of the numbers. And at the bottom, it will list the number of students who make up that population. From this report, I can move this report to an Excel spreadsheet, which will provide a great deal of additional information about these records. I can also add more columns to the display if I wanted to see, say I wanted to see the age group. So by choosing age group from the available columns drop down, and I know you can't see the drop downs in Teams, but it is there. You can choose the available columns. You can add additional columns to this display. You can take this display and you can move the name to just click and hold and drag, and it will move the files or it will move the columns around in the display itself to give you some different information there if you wanted to see it displayed in a different way. I can take this particular piece of information. I can click the Excel export, and I can open the file, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. So I can open the Excel spreadsheet, and I believe you can see that now. And not only does it have the basic information that you saw in the display, it has a great deal of additional information. It has whether they're an active IEL and CE, it has their active registration, it has where they're enrolled, what type of enrollments they have. It shows whether their POP is actually made or not made. Yes, it's eligible. It shows whether they have separated. It shows all the way out to multiple columns of data. And you can actually run just from the dashboard. If you wanted to pull a list of students and see all of those who have opted out of the email, you can do that just from the dashboard. So that dashboard provides you not only the basic display that you see at the bottom, but when you pull it out into an Excel spreadsheet, there's a vast amount of additional information that's available. And that's not even in the reporting system. That is just part of the dashboard. So we give you the drill down capability in those reports, so you can actually drill down in the dashboard to see, again, multiple values of data. How many columns is that? But all the way out to AS, so roughly 50 something columns of data. that are available in that particular spreadsheet. I'm going to go back to the site now. Okay, so the reason the interest separation report took so long for me to run is I don't have any students. It searched the entire system and did not find any students with missing attendance in the last 90 days. Your report should look different than that when you generate your interest separation report. But I'm going to actually move into the reporting queue itself right now. I'm going to go to reports. So to get to the system reports, you're going to choose reports in the left-hand column, and then select the reports option under that. And this takes you to our reporting queue. Okay, the reporting queue, there are several options that you have here that are available to you. One is to schedule a report. So if you click on schedule, actually I need to change that. I'm going to run the report first. Let me do that first. I'm going to choose the report from the drop down. Unfortunately, you can't see the drop down, but I can scroll through it where you can see it. In this drop down, up on reports on the far right hand side, you have table 1, table 2, table 2A, which we just discussed in the discussion of measurable skills gains in POP 101, table 3, table 4 for prior fiscal years, table 4 for the current fiscal years, table 4A, table 4B, table 4C, the older versions, new version of table 4C, older version of table 5, new version of table 5, older version of table 5A, table 6, table 7, table 9, table 10, table 11, statewide performance report, table 4, and the very old version of table 4, the initial version of table 5 from the beginning of WIOA, an older version of table 5A, an older version of table 10, the statewide performance report that was initially generated in the system, and then a student period of participation status report, interest registration report, class list, outcomes report, separation reasons, which we discussed at length in the POP 101 training, student funding report, basic assessment report, phone list and class roster, TABE import status report, tutor summary, this more for the CBOs than the community colleges, students on public assistance report. So all those reports in that dropdown are available in the list of available reports there. So I'm going to choose table 1 just to begin. So when I choose table 1, the first thing that happens is that it gives me a description of the report underneath here. Tells me what this report is designed to display. Participants by entering educational functioning level, ethnicity, and their sex. I can schedule the report at this point, or I can just run the report. So I'm going to schedule the report first. And what the scheduling process does is it opens another window. My provider is listed here. If I had control over multiple programs or access to multiple programs, I would see multiple programs in this list. The state can see all programs in this list. They can run exactly the same reports that you can, all the way down to the report to the single class level. I'm going to leave all class locations blank, etc. And then I can choose when I want this report to run. Do I want the report to run monthly? Do I want it to run weekly? Do I only want to run this report one time? When do I want this report to start? When is the next run date? Do I want to run it every month, or I want to run it for the next 6 months? I want it to run on the first day of the month, on the first Monday. And I can choose a number of additional options. I can choose whether it's going to go from the beginning of the fiscal year. I can choose which dates to always use. I can choose the end date to the current date. So it would begin at the beginning of the fiscal year, run to the current date. And again, multiple different types of reports. Then I can filter it to ethnicity. I can filter it to gender, age. We typically encourage you to use all states because you may have students who are attending your program but actually have an address that would be in Virginia or South Carolina or another state. You choose the output for this report. So I want this report to run in an Excel or a PDF. I'm going to choose PDF just to have it. And this is my, give it a name so you can easily identify it. Is this. I'm just going to change a couple of parameters to make it work. And then I would go and set the report filter. Once I set the report filter, the report is saved. You see the green check mark in the box that says the report is saved. I close this window to make it go away. And now I have in the list of scheduled reports, I have a scheduled table 1 that's going to run. The next time it will run is 7/21/22 at 8 a.m.
7.
Yes.
A lot of people are not seeing your screen at the moment.
Sorry, I don't know what to do about that.
I am. I think it was frozen, but I think we're seeing it now. So
well, the filter came up. I guess they don't see the filter.
More than likely, yes. I am seeing your scheduled report list though, showing regularly scheduled table 1.
Okay, well, there was a report filter that popped up. I'll see if I may have to change the view to make that work. I'll try that the next time that I go and put one in. So now I'm going to actually just go and run a report. I've got one scheduled, but I want to see today's table 2. I'm going to choose table 2 in the drop down. Table 2 in the drop down is participants by age, ethnicity, and sex. It tells me that in the information here. And when I click set report filter, that is going to generate the report for this class. Let me see.
Kat?
Yep. Hold on.
Are you here, Kat? Oh, can you take them all out and watch them for like maybe 3 or 4 minutes? Make sure they don't eat poo and.
Can everyone? Thank you.
Okay. So now you should see the filter itself. I did not realize I'd have to do a separate screen for that. So this is the reporting filter. This is similar to what I just went through to create the scheduled report, but now I'm creating a report that's going to generate today at this particular time. In the filtering options, I have my provider. I only have my provider because I am the program administrator for my one program. I have class location. I can choose which year I want to run this report for. I can choose a particular quarter. I can specify a date range. I'm going to leave it at the current fiscal, but you can change that any way you want to change it. Only include student activity during the reporting period. This means that our reports are designed to capture the entire student participation. So if you chose quarter 1, for instance, and the student had a measurable skills gaining quarter 2, it would show up on that report unless you marked only activity during the reporting period. Then it limits it just to those specific dates.
Hi, Kevin. This is Jenny. Can you, when you finish this, will you show how you got back here again? I think your screen was frozen when you selected the report filters, and so no one could see actually how you got to the screen. So if you'll just re-walk back through it after you explain this, that would be great. Thank you.
I'll just start over. That'd probably be better, actually.
Probably so, yeah, because I just think your screen was frozen for a minute. So
no, it's not frozen. It's not frozen. I have to transition between 2 different screens. That's what's happening.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So no problem. So in order to generate a report, I'll start from the beginning again. In order to generate a report, you choose the report from the drop down, and I have chosen table 2 at this point. When I choose table 2, it lists the type of, or it lists the parameters of the report that I'm going to run. It tells me a little more about the report in this box here. And then I have 2 options. I have schedule report or I have set report filter. Scheduling the report allows me to set guidelines for how often I want to receive this report, what day I want to receive this report, what day this report should generate. And it will put it in the reporting queue and automatically generate the report on the schedule that you create. I am going to actually change it to set report filter. Set report filter allows me to generate the report immediately. So you choose select report filter. And at that point, it does look like the screen is frozen, but the screen is not frozen. I have to actually switch to a different view because it does a pop-up window. Let me go to that second view. Now you should see the report filter parameters now. So you've selected set report filter and it opens the parameters. When you do this on your local machine, it is not going to be two separate screens. The report parameters will actually pop up on top of the reporting page that you're on. You'll set the report filters and you'll close it and it'll go back to the reporting page. But for this, for me to do this presentation, I have to actually switch between screens. So it'll take just a second. So I switch between screens. Now you see the reporting filter parameters. And again, it won't look exactly like this on your screen because you'll have two pages that are open simultaneously. So I'm going to scroll down at this point. I've chosen the provider. The only provider that I have available is myself because I am in as a program administrator. Class locations, I can choose. I can filter this report by location. I can only choose to see classes that are at the Fortress location or the default location, which are the two that are available for me. I can choose a specific class if I want to see a report just for a specific class. I can choose the range. And in the range, you have current fiscal year, you have all prior fiscal years to 2018, 2019. You can choose a specific quarter in the current fiscal year. You can choose year to date, or you can choose to specify a range. I'm going to leave this at current fiscal year. The only activity during the period, this is a checkbox where you can select, you only want to see students, or only want to see information that relates to the date span that you selected. So for instance, if I put quarter one of the fiscal year, ADVANSYS looks at the entire student participation. So if you choose quarter one, even if the student has a measurable skills gain in quarter two, it's going to show students that were registered in quarter one who had a measurable skills gain. It's not going to limit it just to students who had that measurable skills gain in quarter one. If you only want to see what happened in that specific quarter, irrespective of the entire participation, you would choose include only student activity during the reporting period. You can filter the ethnicity, you can filter the gender, you can filter the student age. Again, we encourage you to change this to all states, from North Carolina to all states. You can choose a specific county. You can limit it to zip codes if you wanted to limit it to a specific zip code. Ignore minimum attendance rules means you can pull all students regardless of whether the POP has met 12 hours or not. And then you choose the reporting output. So you have two options here. PDF generates just the report itself, the raw numbers of the report, and it gives you some graphs and other things. So I'm going to generate this as a PDF now, but then I'm going to come back and do the same report as in Excel to show you the difference. So I'm going to choose a PDF now. I'm going to type here table. Well, it'll say table 2. This is. And when I save the report filter, that window is going to give me a check mark to say that the report is saved. And then I will go back to the other window. And I'm going to save this. You won't actually see me close it, but there's a close button there. So now I can go to my available reports. Where am I going to? So now I show my available reports show that I have a PDF for test for training 1 that is queued. If I'm impatient, I can press the refresh button. The status will stay at queued until the report is ready to run. And then when it's ready to run, you'll be able to click on the report and run it and generate the report. What I'm going to do while this report is queued and is being generated, I'm going to go in and create another version of this report. in the Excel version. If you notice in the list of reports, it shows me table 2, it shows me the federal tables, it shows me the name that I created, it shows me the type of report. So I know that I have run a federal table 2 because it says so right here. I know that I have created a PDF because it says so right here. It also has the date that the report was generated. I can remove this from the list if I want to. I don't want to do that right now. So I'm actually going to go and I'm going to quickly do another report in the same format. I'm going to do a table 2. I'm going to choose select report filter again. I'll switch over so you can see the window. It saves a lot of the information that you had prior. So you don't have to recreate the wheel basically. But I'm going to go down and change this to Excel. I'll set the report filter and I'll switch back. And now you see that I have a second test that's queued.
Kevin, can I add something here as well?
Please do.
Yeah. So the way this process works here is it queues up the reports. So if I think there's 90 something people or 273 people currently in this meeting, depending on how many of them just set reports, it will process the queue in that order, and it processes in batches. So reports will finish as they go through them, but it runs in the background so that users can continue doing whatever they're doing. And then there's also the ability, to schedule reports in advance so they can be there Monday morning when they log in.
Okay, while those reports are running, like Tim said, you can do things in the system other than wait on the report to run. To me, this is a very good option because you can go and queue up several reports to run. You can go do anything else you need to do in the system. You can come back, and when the reports are run, you'll be able to generate them from that point. What I'm going to show you now is a list of supplemental reports that are also in the system. Supplemental reports are they're like carryover reports. They're legacy type reports. We are gradually working on putting all of these reports into the reporting queue, but right now several of them are still located here. Case notes reports, barriers to employment report, end of year pending separation, NRS functioning level gains by test. Each report that's listed in this section gives you some basic information about the report and additional information on how to run it. We are trying to standardize all of these so that the filtering would be the same and the ability to key the reports is the same. But right now, these run on kind of an as-needed basis. Let's see if I can find one that'd be fairly easy to run. Active users and roles. Active users and roles. Basically, this is a place that you can go. We've had questions about how do I know what roles my users have in the system. I can go and run this. It runs fairly quickly, and this tells me a list of all the users who are in my system. It tells me the date that they were hired. It tells me their employment type. It tells me what type of education we have listed on their record. It tells me whether they're paid or volunteer. It also shows me what roles they have been assigned. This is a very good resource, and we're going to go over the users in the next session of the presentation today. But this is a very good place for your system to go and just take a really quick look. Okay, well, I've got Mr. Briscoe in. He said he can't see anything in the system. Well, obviously he can't see anything in the system. He doesn't have a role assigned. So I need to go to his record and assign him a role to make that work. It also shows, and this is information that's valuable, particularly from a state level, and also from a program administration level. This one particular report will show you the last time this user logged into the system and had activity. For instance, this user that I'm logged in as now logged in at 6/9/2022. So that's the date. This person was logged in yesterday on 6/8. Mr. Briscoe was hired yesterday. He has not logged in yet. You can, most of our reports that are our supplemental reports in the system will allow you to export them to Excel or CSV. This gives you just some additional functionality so that you can put it into, pull it out, print it out, whatever you wanted to do. But that's one of the supplemental reports that's in the system. And again, you can see this is the way that we used to do reports prior to the queuing. So you would go and generate the report, but then you have to go actually back to reports and select an additional report to run. I'll choose another supplemental report. Those are still queued. Let's try enrollment progress report. This is another really valuable report. This tells you, when you pull this enrollment progress report, it tells you whether or not the student has additional steps that need to be taken for their registration to be active in the system. In this case, we never completed secondary and state goals for Mr. Huell. Doesn't really matter because that's, we're not really concerned with those, but at least we know that information. We did not finish the demographic information for Charles McGill. We did not finish the demographic information for Skylar, for Kim Wexler. And then you come down to the last student in this list, to Skylar White. We haven't put the student into a class. We haven't given the student any assessment, and we haven't finished their secondary or state goals. This is an extremely valuable report for you to go and find when you're looking at your list of students and you're trying to figure out, okay, why is the student not showing up on the report, or why is the student not showing as complete? This one report will pull every student in the program and will tell you what steps need to be taken in order to complete that registration process. Typically, reports only take, a minute to 30 seconds in order to generate. These are taking a little bit longer because of the sheer number of people that are trying to access the same part of the system at the same time. Let's look at function level gains by test. It's another supplemental report that's in the system. This one you can break down with a little more reporting filter information. Set the report filter there. And what this report does is it shows me the assessments that have been taken by the student. Their contact type is ESL. It shows me that the test that they're taking is TABE 11 math, 11-12 math. It shows me that Mr. Fring has 1 level gain in math. It shows me that Mr. McGill has 2 level gains in math. And from this, 99.9% again of our reports that we generate in the system are not just report pages, but they are working pages. So I can go back to this student record if I wanted to see how Mr. McGill made 2 gains in math, or how Mr. Fring made 1 gain in math. I can go directly to that student record by clicking on the student name. It takes me straight to their profile. I can look and see, okay, they have a measurable skills gain here, an ESL gain on 5-2. I can scroll down and I can even look at their test record here. And it will show me what the test the students have taken. And then if I go into the test record itself, scroll back up, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the mouse at this point. Scroll back up, it will show me the assessment here, the EFL gain on 3-5. So I can go into the test record here where the inner test scores is, and I can look at the test record. I can see, okay, they took a test, English test and a math test. They took an English test on 3-5. English went from level 2 on 3-1 to level 5. So there's my measurable skills gain. So that report, again, it's all the reports that are in the system provide different slices of information. And now I have my PDF is a PDF has been generated, so I'm going to actually go and take a look at it now. This is the table 2 that I ran that is a PDF. So when the report has actually been generated, it will turn the schedule name into a link for you to open it. So if I click on the test for training 1, you don't see the download box that comes up, but then I can download this. And this is what a PDF of a federal table looks like. The first page is the criteria. This helps me, it particularly helps us, or it helps our users when they generate a report and they're trying to compare apples to apples. We want to make sure that, they've chosen all class locations. So these two, so that you know what parameters you put into the filtering when you generated this report. So in this case, we've chosen all zip codes. We're not ignoring minimum attendance, etc. The next section is the PDF page here, which shows the information for the students who are in my program. I have 2 that are age 25 to 44. I've got one that's 45 to 54, and I've got one that's 55 to 59. So you have a total of 4 students in my program. This is a PDF, however, and like I said a minute ago, most of the things in our system are working pages. PDFs are not. PDFs are primarily for display purposes. So you can see the report, but you cannot actually go in and pull information about the student. That's why we encourage you, and I'll go over this in just a second. We encourage you to generate the reports as PDFs, as Excel sheets, because that gives you additional information. The next page in the PDF that's generated is a chart that you can use. This chart shows the same information that was shown before, but it's broken down into the ethnicity and the age groups. And there's a bar chart, or excuse me, a guide on the side that explains what each of the different colors represent. When you have more information, I've only got 4 students in this program as a sample program. When you have multiple numbers of students in the program, the chart looks prettier than this. So that's the PDF file. That's what it looks like when you generate a PDF for a federal report. All of the reports are done the same way: Table 2, Table 3, Table 4. When you generate the PDF, you're going to get the report criteria. You're going to get the printable table itself on the second page. And then the third page will be a graph or a chart. Okay, the Excel sheet is still queued. It takes a little more processing power to generate that one. I'm going to go back to supplemental reports again. And we'll take a look at let's take a look at the separation reasons. I won't have anything there because I haven't separated any students, so I'm not going to go to that one actually. Let's go to barriers to employment report. Again, you notice the filtering parameters are a little different for each report. One of the things that we're working through is to standardize all of these and put them into the queue system so you can actually generate reports and place them into the queue and come back and generate them. So I can run the report there. Open the file. My barriers to employment report generates as an Excel sheet. So let me go display that for you. Okay, so if you look at this, this is the program name. It also shows the students' names and any barriers to employment that the student may have that we marked during the intake and enrollment process. None of my students were marked as this because I was trying to work through the process quickly. But if the student had been marked as a migrant or seasonal farm worker, you'd have an X here. If they were exhausting TANF, you'd have the X there. Single parent, you have an X here. So this report just basically designed to show you students who have barriers to employment. So it's a very simple report to generate. A couple of things to note on this. When you see a registration ID of -1, that typically means the second registration type. Could be an IETP, could be a IEL and CE, or another different registration type. So these are not duplicate student records. These are duplicate types of, these are separate types of registrations for that same student within the program. Now, Excel sheet is still queued. Let's go and take a look at another of the supplemental reports while we're waiting on that to actually generate. Let's go actually pull over to, we can look at attendance alerts. Attendance alerts is another report, and again, we're working with a very small sample data set. But if I had students who were missing attendance hours, I can actually, let's change this to 15 days, and it might generate something. But the attendance alerts are designed to show students who are missing attendance hours. If they had not had attendance entered, it will show the student's name. It'll show the last date they attended. It'll show their last test date. It'll show their enrollment date, and it'll show the type, the contact type, ABE, ASD, or ESL. Testing alerts is kind of the opposite functionality. Testing alerts shows me students who are missing test scores within X number of days. So I can set this to.
Kevin, you're on the Excel document at the moment.
I'm not either. It's showing shared the window at the bottom. I don't know what's going on with Teams today. Refresh. Give me a second.
We can see the students missing test scores now. We're not seeing the, it just switched to off the Excel. I think you're okay now, Kevin.
Okay, I'll go back to attendance alerts because apparently I don't think you saw that one. Again, attendance alerts, it just basically shows students who have not had attendance hours entered in the last 60 days. It's designed to give you kind of a heads up for students who might be approaching that 90-day threshold. You can mark approved attendance, unapproved attendance. You can also change the 60 days to 15. You can change it to 30. You can change it to 45. But the idea is that you would see the students' names, the last date they attended, the last test date, the enrollment date, and the contact type. And that's if you generate this report for yourself, you'll see additional information because some of yours will have missing attendance hours. This is a small sample that I'm working with. I'm not going to see that necessarily in hours. I'm going to go to testing alerts next, though. Testing alerts is a little more complicated of a report. So what it's going to show me is students who have had X number of hours accumulated without a test score being entered. I can change that 40. I can make that any number that I want to. I could change it to 10. I could change it to 1. I could change it to 5. Whatever I wanted to do. I'm going to change it to 5. I can also filter this. I can show inactive classes. I can include students who have been registered for less than 30 days. The report typically filters those out because usually in the first 30 days, you're not really looking for students that need to have a test. That's a different type of situation. You could only include a certain type of test. You could only include TABE or GAIN or CASAS or BEST Plus. You can break it down to subject areas: English, language, listening, math, reading, or speaking. You can break it to a specific class. If you were the program administrator and you wanted to see a specific class and a specific teacher, and whether or not they've entered assessments for their students in X number of days, you can go and see that by the class level. You can exclude students with an HSC, you can exclude students who have achieved a diploma, you can exclude students who are at ABE level 6, or you can exclude students who have achieved an EFL. And what the report shows me when I go down to the actual list itself is it shows me the student's name, it shows me the subject level that they're taking. So they're listening ESL level 5. It shows me the last test that they took. It shows me the last date of attendance. It shows me the hours since they last took a test. And it's also broken down into NRS hours. And if you're looking at a specific class. So if you'd selected one specific class, it would show you only the hours for that class as opposed to the all combined hours. It shows whether or not the student has a measurable skills gain. It also allows you the opportunity to enter test scores here. If I click the enter test scores option, it will go straight to the student's test score entry record. Or if the student is no longer being tested in listening, I can exclude this from the reports until I test the student again in listening. So this gives me the option to remove the student from the reports if I choose to. And when I scroll down, I see two different options here for Gustavo Fringas because he's being tested in math and English. It shows the same information. It's been 55 hours since his English test, 60 hours since his last math test, because he took those on different days. Took the math on 3-1, took the English on 3-5. So it breaks it down by specific subject area and by the date. But this is just one of the multiple options that we have on that it's built in outside the reporting queue itself that allows you to go and pull what is essentially report information, but it's working report information. It's information you can go and actually use to perform actions for the student. And our Excel sheet is still queued. Tim, could you please check on that and see if there's some way you can force that to run, please?
Yeah, let me see how many are running.
While he's checking that, I'll go to a couple of things about the queue while he's looking at that. We keep reports in the queue for up to 90 days. So you'll be able to go back and you'll be able to go back at some point later in time and pull the same PDF test for training 1 that you generated today. You can still pull that same report for up to 90 days. It will remain in the queue and available to you for that entire time. And again, this is an atypical process. A couple of things are happening on the development side. One is the processing power that we use on the development side is not at the same level as the production side. So the reports do generate slower in development because we want to focus most of our attention on making it work for the production side as opposed to development. So our resources are tied there. And in addition to that, typically you will not have 150 people running the same report at the same time. It will queue the reports in based on the entry time because we all essentially press the same button at essentially the same time. It's going to take a little bit longer for the reports to generate. When I looked at the database level, or when Tim looked at the database level, now we have like a little over 200 reports that are attempting to run at the current time. So it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah,
But
I would have to boot you and everybody to bring up the load balancer. So
yeah, let's not do that. That's fine. But the concept is the same. I really wish I had the ability to show you an Excel sheet. Let me see if I actually have. I might give me 2 seconds. I'm going to try to see if I can pull up one that I already had generated in another system. Hold on just a second. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just a minute. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to try to find a different option for you so I can at least show you what that looks like. And you'll see it yourself as you generate it, but excuse me. Hey Tim, do I have a live side version with a test center that I could run? Actually, I've got it. Hold on, I've got it.
Internal staging, you could probably do.
I've got it. No worries, I got it. Okay, I went to one of our other development systems that is not tied to the same place. And this is, I just want to show you what the Excel sheet looks like because it's a really powerful piece of information, a powerful tool for you to use when those reports generate for you. And on the live side, reports generate almost instantly. You don't have this waiting queue like you do in development. The first page that you get in the in the Excel spreadsheet, there are 3 tabs at the bottom. There's criteria, there's summary, and there's details. So when you generate, in this case, I generated a table 1. It says here at the top, this is the reporting period. This is the district must have activity. All the reporting criteria is there for you to view. You go to the summary tab and it shows you the summary information just like you would typically get from an Excel spreadsheet. But the biggest thing about this particular list is when I go to the details tab, I can see the specific students who make up that population. So if you have a question about a report or why you have X number of students who are showing on table 4, or you have, you're not sure why this student is showing on table 1, et cetera, it always helps us to have the Excel spreadsheet to use as a reference, because we can actually at that point pinpoint it down to a specific student. And it also makes it easier on you. If you look at your PDF report and it says you should have 145 students, and you're thinking to yourself, I know I've got 148. Well, if you run it as a PDF and all we know is you have 145 and you think you should have 148, we don't really have a way to cross-check that without the Excel spreadsheet. So if we have the Excel spreadsheet, we can figure out, okay, these are the 145 that you have, who's missing? Or you can take it actually, and the spreadsheet actually has even more tools built into it, which are the column sorting features. So for instance, if I wanted to take this particular spreadsheet that I generated, and again, it's a small data sample, so it's not going to be quite as valuable here, but when you have, a couple hundred students, it's much more valuable at that point. I can click on the little tab that are next to the entering level, and I can change that to only show me students who are at ESL level 2. And it filters the report down to only show me those students. I can take this Excel spreadsheet, I can add that back. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with Teams. It's sitting here with everything red and highlighted saying that I'm showing a spreadsheet. I have no idea why it's not working. second. Let me try it again. All right, I got out and got back in. Is that working now?
Yep.
All right, start over again. All right, so this is what an Excel spreadsheet looks like when you generate it in the system. There are 3 tabs at the bottom, like I mentioned before. There's criteria, there's summary, there's details. Criteria is the reporting parameters. Summary is the basic reporting data like you would see in a PDF. And details tells me the students who are included in this population. So these are the students who are included in the population. It actually helps me see who they are. Apparently this was a Star Wars class. I don't really know what that means, but then if I go over here to say I want to filter this list down to only those who are male, I can click the little tiny arrow next to gender. There's a select all button I would unclick. I would choose male next beneath that, and then I can only see the male student. I can uncheck that, go back to select all. Now I'll see all of them again. I can go to, I only want to see students who have a pop game. I can go to the column U, which is pop game. I can uncheck that, mark it to an EFL game, check that, and now there are 2 students who have an EFL game. You can add and subtract filters to this report. So if I wanted to take it down to only students who are female, only students who are more than one race, and only students whose pop met the 12 hours, it's already there, but I can filter it down. I can do any number of changes to this report to provide me different slices of information. The idea is the Excel spreadsheet is an extremely powerful tool, and I'm going to go back and close this. But again, the idea is to use the Excel spreadsheet, particularly when you have questions about the data in your reports, or you wanted to follow up to find out why a particular student isn't showing, or why you should have 146 students, but you only show 145. This gives you the ability to find out which students make up the population. And it's much more